It's my honor to introduce the gentleman that will be introducing our keynote speaker today, Joe Gugliucci. Joe is a Robert L. Kane Endowed Chair in Long-Term Care and Aging at the School of Public Health and the Director of the Center of Healthy Aging and Innovation, or CHI, whom we thank a great deal for allowing Marilyn to be here today. So, Joe Gugliucci.
Well, thank you so much, Bob. Again, it's truly an honor to be here celebrating such an important milestone in the history of the Minnesota Gerontological Society. As Bob mentioned, I'm Joe Gugliucci, the director of CHI. CHI is really the community space for all interested in aging, not just at the University of Minnesota and beyond. For those who are interested in aging research, aging education, aging policy, age equity and community engagement with aging communities, or even clinical science and practice, CHI is that home that we've worked hard to establish. And you've heard about the tremendous legacy of Bob Kane and Rosalie Kane, mentors and colleagues of mine. We honor their legacy in extending and building CHI to be what it is today. There's roughly 150 members of CHI right now, faculty, staff, all not just in the University of Minnesota, but beyond. So if anyone is interested in joining CHI or learning more, you are all welcome. Our table is outside. You can check our website out at z.umn.edu/CHI. We also have 92 student members as part of our Aging Study Interdisciplinary Group. They do a lot of great work both in the community and on campus. If you are a student interested in being connected to others interested in aging, please consider joining ASIG as part of CHI as well. And finally, I'd be remiss without mentioning many of you in the room who are also active community partners, formerly affiliated with CHI. We have around 65 of those organizations affiliated with us as well. So again, we see our work and our mission really going hand in hand with the Minnesota Gerontological Society Conference, and we're so thrilled to be sponsoring the keynote speaker. One of our key events that CHI holds twice a year is the CHI Speaker Series. Dr. Tatiana Shippey, who I think many of you know, who's here today, oversees that along with able coordination support from Alicia Wolf. We have a virtual CHI Speakers series in the fall that also often includes also a panel of local experts on a given topic. And then we like to feature an in-person CHI speaker. And we thought what would be a better way to do that than to sponsor the keynote at the Minnesota Gerontological Society Conference. And it really is my honor and pleasure to introduce this year's MGS keynote and CHI speaker, and that is Dr. Marilyn Gugliucci. Of course, I have prepared comments, and I'll go through that. Given all the excitement and delights we've had with technology, I'm sure you'll be thrilled to know I don't have slides, so you'll be happy with that. But in any event, I had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Gugliucci speak this past fall at the Gerontological Society of America conference. Perhaps some of you did too. I don't think you could find a more inspirational, exciting, dynamic speaker. And we were so thrilled that Marilyn was able to find time in her very busy schedule to join us here in Minnesota. Dr. Gugliucci is professor and director, geriatrics education and research at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine, and is also former president as well as current board chair of GSA. Dr. Gugliucci is a fellow of 4 national associations, and in addition to her recent presidency of the Gerontological Society of America, she was also the former president of AGHEF, the Association for Gerontology in Higher Education. She was also the former chair of GSA's Health Sciences section and served in the inaugural GSA Board of Directors. Dr. Gugliucci has been recognized with a number of state and national awards for her research and teaching, and she lectures both nationally and internationally and has disseminated her work widely across multiple outlets. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Gugliucci.
Appreciate it. I just got turned on. Was that an okay comment? I said I just got turned on. I meant the mic. Hi everyone, good morning, how are you? This is my pointer. Does anybody wonder what this is from? Anybody want to guess? You'll never guess. So I'm a runner. I've run 9 marathons. I started at the age of 40 and I did Disney, and there's like 20, anybody run Disney? It's like 20,000 runners. It's kind of crazy. And so my support group made 10 of these. And I also did the 100th running of the Boston, which was 40,000 runners. And I could see this from a half mile away. And I would see the runners ahead of me doing the hand slap, you know? So I was like, this is cool. But now what's really cool about it is I get to walk around and touch people and not invade your, a graduate from Unicom. Good to see you, Hannah. I get to touch people without invading your personal space. But you should know that I'm Italian, and what that means is that I like to hug, and I also like to eat off of other people's plates. So those of you that are having lunch with me today, please be careful. I can rein myself in. So my goal in life is to change the world. It's a small goal. But all of you here, when you hear what I have to say, I know you'll agree. I don't need to take in the masses. If I can, in my teaching or in my research, I can reach out to one person and get them to think just a little differently, maybe even use a different term to reframe, and they get it, I've changed the world. Hannah is a geriatrician, 2014 grad from Unicom. So cool. You know, it's like success. Thank you, Hannah. So really wonderful. And just so you know, I was a coach in a former life. I was an athlete and a coach, and so I coached volleyball and lacrosse at the collegiate level. And what I learned from coaching was that when you're working with people, that some learn by hearing what you're saying, right? The auditory. I'm not that kind of learner, okay? Some are auditory, some are kinesthetic. They have to go through the movements and then they get it. And then some of the athletes I found out were visual learners. If they could just see it being done, they could then recreate that. And so I use slides, I use my voice, and I'm going to be doing some experiential stuff. Do all of you have the sheet with the 3 columns? Okay, so we'll be coming up to that pretty soon. So let's rock and roll. We ready to go? I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my research. I started in 2006, the Learning by Living nursing home immersion, where I admit medical students into nursing homes to live the life of a resident. I'm the adult daughter that admits them. And so they are like my parent, the men and women that go in. For 2 weeks, they're being toileted, they're being bathed, they're eating pureed foods, they're in a wheelchair. Everyone goes in with a diagnosis. They lose their dominant side from a stroke. Their medications are M&Ms, but I don't care. When was the last time you got really excited about being woken up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to get some M&Ms? I actually had one student. He lived in a 12-bed ward. This is 4 states, 24 different nursing homes, no money in this project. He got red M&Ms and he said to the nurse, I'm supposed to have green M&Ms. You know, like that's what happens. So let me play the video from the CBS Evening News story. We are the only medical school doing this project. In the world, actually. Okay, where is it, Todd? Here we go. And we don't have sound.
Ever been on a stretcher before?
This fourth-year medical student is spending the next week and a half living among 514 residents at a nursing home in Upper Manhattan. Not as a doctor, but as a patient.
Today, just being even in this bed, I'm not even comfortable, although I'm just laying down.
Comfort isn't the goal of this program, called Learning by Living.
Well,
Med students considering a specialty in geriatrics live life at the other end of the stethoscope. Marilyn Gugliucci started the program 5 years ago.
It's about being in the shoes, in the wheelchair, living the life over an extended
The ballroom
The
without
students
the
are assigned a
permits?
diagnosis.
I'm on
Sue
year
Chung
3
is
of
supposed
trying
to
to get
be
my
a
co-op
recent
board to
stroke
approve my
victim.
new doormat. It's a pillow that I can sleep on when my wife
There's a
locks
lot
me
of
out after I day
adjusting
drink
to
with pop stars
not
half my
walking
age.
around.
Yeah. Everything's different.
Everything's different.
Throughout the 10 days and nights, she
Now,
was
at a time
poked
like
and
this, it'd be nice
prodded,
if we had
fed
some
pureed
stability
food,
in the
and
leadership
retaught
of
the
our law enforcement
basics,
agencies.
like how to
Instead,
dress.
we
You
just
have
got
to
a
make
new
sure
Homeland
that the
Security
gown
Secretary.
clears
It
the
seems like the
elbow.
FBI director
She even
might
learned to
be
knit
on his way out.
one-handed. Each night, she recorded her impressions in writing for school and on video for us.
Shopping where I used to normally walk around became 10 times more difficult. It could be a very lonely place for the elderly here.
That is exactly the kind of empathy this
I've
exercise
never
can
been less
foster,
shocked by
says
mental firing.
geriatrician Veronica
I
LaFasa.
was so
Without
not
connection,
shocked that when
you're
I
not a
heard
good
that,
doctor.
I kept eating my burrata
Geriatrics is
salad.
a field that could use a
The
few good
chatter
doctors.
about
Nice
Patel's
meeting
job
everybody.
increased
On the
after
day of her
recent
departure, it was
allegations
clear
about
this
his erratic
critical part
behavior.
of Sue Chung's medical training had given her much more to think about.
Side was, I hope when I go back as a medical student and hopefully a doctor soon, that I remember how it feels to be the patient. I'll come back to visit, okay?
A lesson she could have
Cash
only
Patel's
learned
FBI, the
in
F
a
stands for
one-of-a-kind
freakouts, the
classroom.
B stands for beer, and the I look shocked.
Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
So now Patel's desperately trying to keep his job by slathering praise
How did
all
that
over
go?
Trump
Did you
whenever
get a
he's on
sense
camera.
of it? Oh, did you get a sense? Oh, God, so sorry. But, so think about it. You have a 20, 30-something-year-old medical student. They then get admitted into a nursing home. They're in a wheelchair right away. Sue Chung was on a stretcher as soon as she walked in. She's actually from Mount Sinai School of Medicine, and she was a fourth-year student. Most students were done at their end of their first year. They would go in. One time, I had 8 students in 8 different nursing homes, and I was the parent for all of them. That was amazing. Day 5, every student had something. A migraine, a stomach ache. They cried all day. There was something about day 5 from doing this project, 100% of them, something happened. And then they popped out the other side and settled in and created community. So what do you think? At the end, they're in a wheelchair for 12 to 14 days. And then I come, we do a debriefing. This is based on qualitative ethnographic autobiographic research, which you don't have to know what that is. It's a research, they get a citation. But, that's the culprit. Thank you, Todd. He needs a raise, really, and stair laps. So, what do you think happens at the end? I show up, we do a debriefing, the student is ready to go. What happens? How do you think the student responds? Just yell it out. I had no idea what was going to happen. I figured they're going to run out of there. Well, they couldn't run because they were in a wheelchair for 14 days, right? But the men and the women cried at the end because they connected with community. And then, I was the president of AGHEF while I was doing this project, and this woman comes up to me and she said, Marilyn, I'm going to put all my students in a nursing home overnight. What do you think would happen if they went in for one night? Oh, God. I said, all we're going to do is solidify these negative attitudes about nursing homes, of which we should never be calling them facilities, right? And they're just going to see the disease decline, the withdrawal that often our society posts. And I just want to tell you a quick story about Will Haven, a third-year student. Will, when they get done with their first 2 years, then they go into the hospital, right? They do their clerkships. And Will came to me at the end of his third year, and they call me Dr. G. He's like, Dr. G, I've just had the humanity pressed right out of me this year. Would you put me in a nursing home? Well, I'd be happy to put you in a nursing home. I don't know if it's going to bring back your humanity, but let's give it a try. So I'm from Maine. The school's in Maine. I found a nursing home in New Hampshire. brought him to that nursing home, admitted him, visited him like a dutiful daughter would. They write journals. I responded to those every day. And at the end, did a debriefing with everybody, drove him back to Maine. And that night I called him and I said, Will, I'm just checking on you. How are you? And he's like, hey, Dr. G, I'm doing great. I'm back in New Hampshire having dinner with my friends. He drove back down an hour and a half after being released. So that's, that kind of essence and heart connection. And so that was really special. So I took those methods and then I applied it to the 48-hour hospice home immersion, another learning by living project. These students choose a partner. Now I can't put students into a Gosnell home and a hospice home and say, okay, now die. Nobody knows how to die. So, well, at that age, we hope they don't. And they choose a partner, and then they are the providers of care, not the recipients of care. They share a room, so there's the room up there. The couch pulls out to a bed. I make sure that one night, one sleeps in the bed, and the next night somebody sleeps in the bed, because hundreds of people have died in those beds, and they should get that feeling. They get all their food there. They have an interprofessional staff, nurses, chaplains, CNAs, the physicians, the NPs, amazing interprofessional model, which Medicare requires. And what they do is they do patient care. So they're toileting people, they're bathing people, even without that kind of experience. They're sitting with people, they're holding hands. They are learning the difference between curing and healing. Got the difference there? You can't cure. This is the ICU of hospice. These people, their general inpatient means that their symptoms need to be managed and can't be managed if they're in the home hospice program. And sometimes hospitals will send them because they don't want to get dinged for the death. And people are dying in the ambulance on the way over. And then the students have to deal with that as well. On average, 5 deaths, 2 deaths to 10 deaths is the range. For those students on any of that range of the scale, when I debrief with them at the end of the project, first thing they say to me is, we can't get over how much life is in this home. We can't get over how much fun we had here. Like, they caught on to the hospice humor behind the scenes with the staff, but their connection with people. And there were so many people that ended up in hospice that didn't know they were terminal until they were in an acute care hospice home. And the students, like 3 hours, they were talking with this one woman, she was angry. She said, why didn't they tell me? They told me my cancer came back, but I don't know what metastases is. I didn't know what that meant. They cured the other cancer, why didn't they cure this? And so for our students to get that kind of experience and to hear from people. So again, only medical school in the world doing these projects. No money changes hands in either of these projects. The New York nursing home, $850 a day, and we didn't pay a cent. They get a copy of the journal, same thing for the hospice home. So pretty remarkable stuff, and I'm just so glad to do this. And really what happened was, to get this whole thing started, was a medical student came up to me. Rena Joachim, our house was bombed 2 times in Lebanon. She ended up coming with her family to the US. She never knew anybody, no older adults. Her grandparents died in that war in Lebanon. And then I taught a class and she came up to me and she says, Dr. G, I want to learn how to speak with institutionalized elders. What happens in your mind when you hear institutionalized? I'm thinking, I got a teachable moment here. I just can't say you talk with them like you would any adult. Depending, I'm talking about people with good cognition, but even so, your heart should come through. And then I don't know how this happened. This happens to me all the time. I said, can I put you in a nursing home and would you live there for 2 weeks as if you were a resident? And we had this pregnant pause and she had these big black eyes and she's like, yeah, I'll do it. So that's learning by living. This is actually my paid research balancing act. If you Google UNICOM, which is University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine, just put in UNICOM UXL. It's an adult fitness program that I've been running since 2005. And And then Balancing Act is a program where you can get all the materials online. What was really cool about this was an NIA funded to have this designed for people who are blind and visually impaired. And so we had beginner, intermediate, advanced action exercises. And then we worked with the Maine Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and we got older adults who were blind. We read them the instructions and said, could you recreate this? And they said, we don't know what it means to put your feet 10 inches apart or 12 inches apart. Can you say hip width or shoulder width? We could do that. And so we have an abridged version, all free online, and I do print copies. I don't charge. If anybody wants it, just you can get in touch with me and get a copy of the Balancing Act manual. There are videos for UXL, programs that people can do from home, just regular fitness programs. We did them through COVID and we kept them up there. And then the Balancing Act, there's also a video, so even if you can't see, you can be able to follow along. And within 2 weeks, depending on what the other issues are in terms of why balance is being affected, you can get more stable within 2 weeks. I just want to say real quick that our medical school is a designated AGHEF program of merit through the Gerontological Society of America. We have a required 50+ hours of geriatrics for first and second year students, which is unheard of in medical school. Usually 0 to 5 hours in geriatrics. Ask Hannah, she knows, she went through a lot of those. But now 80% is front-facing with older adults in different care settings. So it's all experiential. And any of the teaching that I do in the first year, I always have older adults in the class and an interaction going on as well. And then what is so cool, because I'm it in the division, and I'm a PhD, that in Hannah's year, there were actually 6 students that became geriatricians. And I have some of them come back and have the students who are geriatricians teach then the cohort of students that's sitting in the seats. And they're like, wow, I can do this. And each year we get about 60 students out of 200 in our geriatrics and palliative medicine student chapter. So that's a cool thing. And this is really nice. And graduation this year, all the students will get a certificate from the Gerontological Society of America saying they graduated from a program of merit. And at the end of their second year, they get a CV citation under awards and honors for completing that 50 hours of required geriatrics. So that's kind of a neat thing. For the students that are going to be pediatricians, there's a lot of grandparents out there taking care of their grandchildren. So this is any specialty, any field of medicine. All physicians should be skilled in working with older adults, and that's what we're working on, okay? So that's that. Okay, now we get to the fun part. So here's our objectives. We're actually going to identify and summarize. So we're going to identify some of the things that happen in terms of ageism, some of the nuances of that, and then summarize some of the approaches to reframe aging. And a lot of you are up on this. A lot of you could be doing this talk. I'm just a little crazy about it, that's all. So we're going to simulate. This is going to be the experiential part. And then by simulating some of the pieces and doing some experiential learning, it will bring into your souls hopefully a little bit more. There's not much I can do when you're all sitting in seats, but to get a sense of empathy about what's going on. Actually, you're going to get a hearing test today. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But what is also interesting is this competence and confidence. If we have medical students who are confident and not competent, that's when I worry. And I'm on the committee for student progress, which means we're tracking students, we're making sure everybody's, if they're competent and they don't have confidence, we can work on that. But the other way around, and if we can get both competence and confidence, we're doing well. Thank you both for your work in the field. Competent and confidence. Thank you. So then we're just going to integrate some reframing concepts, and it's always good to reflect on things. How does this affect me? How does it affect, the micro, the smaller groups, and then how about the larger groups, the macro groups. So that's what we're going to do. And the 3 key points, which I'll revisit at the end: what do we need to be aware of? What is it we need to be aware of? What's one of the real big issues that's happening in aging right now? Just yell it out. Ageism. That was a plant. Ageism, yes, definitely. Role of applied of experiential learning. This is critical. I don't care if you're a service provider, a healthcare provider, an academic. That experiential piece, and I made up a story and I'm sticking with it, that people who are in the health professions and the service sector, they learn best by doing, by being engaged. And then considerations to implement change, and we'll talk about that. So how many of you are eager, not anxious, to turn 70, 80, 90, or 100? What happened with the rest of you? What's going on here? Did you buy into the cultural mores about aging? Is that why you're not raising your hands? What happened? Okay, this is good. I love a challenge. Yay. And I'm not saying aging is all wonderful, wonderful things, but there could be some neat things that happen. Anybody see her, 104? She jumped out of a plane. 2 weeks later, she actually died in her bed. But gee, you know, what a way to go. And if she died jumping out of a plane, what the heck, you know? She was that close anyway. And are any of you familiar with Betty Friedan? She wrote The Fountain of Age. I love her book, and this is one of her quotes: "Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength." Now, it's not so much the words, it's the idea that reframing is important. How we view things, and I'll come back to that later, because that attitude about aging is everything. And what strikes me so deeply, and in a medical school, and you'll see this in your lives, that the students that I work with, adult students, every day there's some kind of crisis, stress, illness, death. Something is happening in their lives. Why do we think that all of that only happens when you're older? Everyone in this room has been through that throughout their lives. And by doing that, by having those things happen, again, did you build resilience from that? Did you learn how to adapt and adjust? Did you bring it into your heart? Did you shut down your heart? What did you do with that? And that's a really, really important question, because as you were is who you will be. That continuity theory, that red thread that goes through your life. And that's a critical thing to think about. So, you know, I'm 72, we get to older ages. I've learned not to do marathons anymore. I was like, and my spouse is 17 years older than me, 89. 40 years we're together. And she's out there doing raking, shoveling, chainsawing. You should see her chainsaw down a tree with a 6-inch battery-operated chainsaw. It's the most amazing thing. From Minnesota. Right? Moose Lake, Minnesota. Anybody know Moose Lake? Yeah, see? And I also went to Battle Lake, and the first time I went there, I would see her cousins, and it was 760 people in, the sign. I went back 2 years later, 761. It's a thriving metropolis. This next slide, it didn't come out good. There was a translational issue from slides. So let me go back here. What does our society say about older people? What kind of drivers are they? Just yell it out. Terrible, right? So you're not even hesitating, okay? What kind of personality do older people have, according to our society? Oh my God, crotchety. Listen to you so fast. And I'm going to tell you something about crotchety. How many of you today here are grumpy or crotchety? Oh my God. That was a lot more than I wanted. We're back again to that red thread. right? That if you're crotchety and grumpy when you're older, chances are you were crotchety and grumpy when you were younger, right? I think I came out of the womb an optimist, and I continue to be an optimist. And I don't care what comes my way, it's my first default is go to optimism, which I'm thankful for. People think I'm kind of in la-la land half the time, but that's okay. I'm pretty happy inside myself, you know, having that kind, especially nowadays, having that kind of view. But what is it that you see somebody who's grumpy or grouchy, and you blame it on their age, right? That's what happens. Maybe they're just grumpy and grouchy and always have been. So those are things that are just so important for us to think about across the line. So here, this didn't come through. Let me see if I can, okay, let me play with this. So I'm not applauding your erection, I'm trying to turn off the lights. And maybe that's part of how I got turned on in the beginning, I'm not sure. But you know, in our society, we're saying that people are sexless. Why is it that we have to go there? And especially as we get older, we can then shift. Maybe we don't need intercourse, maybe it's physical intimacy or emotional intimacy. Just sitting next to someone on a couch or holding a hand might be it, right? It doesn't have to be what you did when you're hopefully not 10 or 12, but you know, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, it can change, but it doesn't mean we're sexless. And so that's important. Let's see what comes up. Oh, and what kind of driver is she? Check out the dog's eyes. And another, I don't know if it's going to come up, but another uncanny thing that happens in our society. Nope, wait, let me see. There it is. Wake up, the cat's got your teeth. What we do in our society is we fragment ourselves, right? You can tell it by the medical professions. We have so many specialty now. And when we have a primary care doc that's working with, you know, we all have primary care. When I was healthcare power of attorney for one of my friends, and she had 8 different physicians, 25 different medications, we go back to the primary care, and I say, there's got to be something's going on here. We got some polypharmacy. And that primary care doc, who was really very good and was great with my friend, she said, I just need to tell you, I'm not comfortable changing anything that a cardiologist gave, that a pulmonologist gave, that an orthopedic gave, that you know, that's a lot of burden on a primary care physician. So here we have this fragmentation. This guy lost his teeth. We don't know what else he lost. So, and we got that again. So I'm going to play this. This is the World Health Organization. If you haven't seen this video, it's worth seeing, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
So what's this all about?
Cacheta games. I'm too old for this.
You just want me to say what people say about me.
Weird question, I guess.
My teacher says you'll grow out of it. It's just a phase.
It was never a phase. I never grew out of it.
I guess I'm too reckless, I don't know.
Says
People
you're
like to
reckless.
talk very loudly to me.
They say I don't think things through.
You're looking still good for your age.
I'll figure it out when I'm older.
You are having a senior moment.
When the focus is on my age,
Life seems to get a little bit harder.
It feels like I'm not given a chance.
I need to keep up.
Well, get out of the way.
I lack experience. Or too much experience.
I'm baggage.
Only weighing people down.
Looking at my age like it is a disease.
Where I work,
No one takes me seriously.
It makes me feel powerless. And it hurts.
When people see only my age.
Oh, did I just hear a wow? Let me get this ahead. Okay, so how many in here have experienced ageism? Younger, older? When I do this in my classes, the students are like, nobody's taking me seriously. They tell me I'm too young to be a physician. You know, those kinds of comments that are happening. And so for almost everybody in this room raised their hand. And that really does hurt. Feel like baggage. Young and old have felt that way. Never grew out of it. I love that woman, right? With the hippie kind of thing. I never grew out of it. And you know, when people say act your age, what does that mean? You know, I'm 72. Am I supposed to be like dried up and something? I don't know. It's not going to be who I am. I wouldn't recognize myself. And so I don't know what act your age means. What age doesn't define you. So be crazy. You know, jump out, be different, take risks. Don't take me seriously. That happens young and old. It hurts. This last one, though, I want you to really think about this 5-letter word. Still. Dr. G, you're still running? Marilyn, are you still working? I became a gerontologist so that when I'm in my 90s and 100s, I'm going to be a hot commodity when I'm teaching. They're going to listen to me when I'm 80 or 90, you know? Really, I seriously chose this profession because I didn't want to retire. But still, that is such a powerful word. And how often do we say it? So if you can even just hang on to that out of anything in this talk and catch yourself, that would be a good thing. Still, you still look good for your age. Has anybody seen this birthday card? I'm sorry for the guys in the room. Can you guess who's your age? You know, all these women got the urn. Now, we've all been in stores. We've looked at cards. We laugh. It's kind of funny, you know. We say, oh, this is a perfect card. When you open this card, it says, the gal in the urn. Whoa. So in our society, aging is about disease, decline, and withdrawal. And there's a really good reason for that, and we're going to do our first experiential part. Does everybody know how to do thumb wars? Yes? Okay.
Thumb wars?
Would you like to learn?
Yeah.
And your name is, sir?
Steve.
Steve, could you just stand up for a second? Thumb wars, you hold hands like this, right? And what is the object of the game? Oh, see, he knows how.
This game. Oh, this game.
Yeah, thumb wars. Thumb wrestle? Thumb wrestle.
Thumb wrestle.
There you go. Yeah, he knows this game. So the object is to try to pin the person's thumb. You are all going to thumb wrestle for 15 seconds. And if you have 3 people, you can do it this way or that way. But let me tell you, the object is to pin the person's thumb. The goal is to get as many pins as you possibly can in that time. Trust me, this applies to aging, okay? And if you don't have good thumbs and you don't want to do this, that's quite all right. Steve, I need you for a second. Everybody find a partner. Let me see. There's a trick to this.
Of course there is.
Okay, let me raise your hand when you're ready. Whoa! Hold up. Oh, my whistle's not working. Okay, whoa, whoa. Hold up. Hold up. Can anybody whistle? My whistle's not working. My whistle's not, okay, wait. Enthusiasm, I love it. Okay, listen. Here's what's important. You have 15 seconds. If you are one of those people that need to follow the rules and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare thumb war, 5, 6, okay, you're gonna lose 15 seconds. So I am going to say go. You are gonna do thumb wrestling. You're gonna try to get as many pins as you possibly can. And if you hear me yelling, just stop, okay? Just, everybody ready? Go. Hold this way. Hold this way. Tatiana.
Oh, go. Go.
No, this way.
It's not like this.
It's
like
this. That way.
That's
okay.
how you can rest.
Now, Steve, I pin you pin me. I pin you pin me. Yes, and then. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to pin you pin me. Okay. All right. Hold up. Hold up. Woo! All right. How many got one pin? One pin. How many got two? How many got three? How many got 4 pins? 4? Did anybody get more than 4 pins? Look at this arm go up. How many did you get?
I got 6.
And how many did? And how many did your partner get? 0. See, anybody get more than 6? Okay, listen carefully. The object was to pin the person's thumb. The goal was to get as many pins as you possibly can, right? 15 seconds. If Steve and I do that, he pins me, I pin him. He pins me, I pin him. How many pins can we get in 15 seconds by cooperating? Oh, Dr. G, you cheated. Thank you, Steve. Now, here's the thing. Thumb wrestling was set up to be what? Fun and competitive. Let me tell you, when I said to Steve, there's a trick to this, Steve. I said, we cooperate. You pin me, I pin you. He wouldn't let go of my thumb. It's like, cooperate, Steve, you know? But that's what happens in our society. Does anybody know where thumb wars came from? There's no research on this. Bernard Davidson, with his grandson, 1944. What was going on in 1944? World War II. He was so concerned about the killing and the maiming and what was happening, and he used that word maiming, that he said, we got to get people to hold hands and have fun. And he created thumb wars. Now, I have presented, I don't know, 20 different countries and across the US, and 95% of the people know how to do thumb wars. What is that? That is social construction of reality. Berger and Luckman, 1966. Everybody hear it? Simplest form, right? 2 people get together, they decide something is so, they start gathering others to believe what they're saying, and then you get this naysayer up there, no, I don't buy it. But we've got enough of people moving forward. And that is what has happened in the field of aging. Does anybody, have you heard of the disengagement theory? For those of you that have heard disengagement theory, hang on if you don't. Does disengagement sound like a positive word to you? It might if you don't like the person you're with and you want to disengage. But in terms of a theory of functional and successful aging, disengagement is really not a positive word. Cummings and Henry, 1962. Did I say Berger and Luckman for the? Okay, good. So Cummings and Henry, 1962. And they said that it is mutually beneficial for the elderly to disengage from society and society to disengage from the elderly. It is gradual, it is inevitable. And so for this theory of functional and successful aging, what is the ultimate disengagement? Death. You want to age functionally or successfully, you need to die. That is social construction of reality. That is why, for those of you that didn't raise your hands, when I said, are you eager or anxious? And those that are eager raised their hands, the others didn't, because we've been snowballed about death being about disease, decline, withdrawal. That's what happened in our culture. And so now we're really trying to move that. And actually we're doing the same thing with death, right? We're trying to move to the good death, you know, Ellen Goodman Project, trying to reframe death as a part of life, aging is a part of life. Everything that you go through when you're younger, you'll go through when you're older. It's your essence, it's who you are that you carry with you. It's the heart that you share with people. It's the touch, the healing, the caring that you have that will always stay with you regardless of your age. Age does not define you. It just doesn't. So that's that. Now let me just go over a couple terms here just so we're all on the same page. Here we have, let me climb up. We have geriatric, okay? Geriatric is an adjective. And it is defined as someone or something with significant disorders, all right? So I'm one of those sticklers, and bear with me, I'm one of those sticklers that geriatric medicine is medicine with significant disorders. When I was hired and they wanted to make me the director of geriatric education and research, I said, could you please put the S on geriatric, so it's a geriatrics, the noun, so I'm not the director of education and research with significant disorders, okay? And then here we have geriatric animal. Of course, like what a weird thing. Like this is an older definition, Merriam-Webster Dictionary, 2018. So look what I found today. I found a geriatric animal. Got the little slippers, the walker, the pearls. There you go. Now there's something I want to say about geriatric and elderly, and thank you to the community partners and the Community Advisory Board. We had a meeting yesterday, and I found that in some of the cultures here, elderly as a noun is revered. Elderly as a noun. If you have elder the noun, and then you have the ly, an elderly person, what happens in our society when you hear an elderly person? What does some of you think about? Disease, decline, death. So elderly as an adjective, geriatric as an adjective. But we want to make sure, I'm generalizing in a lot of this, but to be sure that our cultures, especially those in Minnesota, that the elder and the elderly noun are revered is important to embrace, not the adjective, okay? So here we have geriatrics, and this is out of Black's medical, oh, there he is, okay. The noun, it's the branch of medicine dealing with diseases and debilities, problems of aging, you paying attention? Diseases and problems, diagnosis, treatment, diseases and problems specific to the age. It's slang, it's an old person. Is there anything in that definition that makes you want to grow older? What's the matter with you? Don't you embrace disease, decline, withdrawal, death? So, and that's the base of this profession. And then wondering why we're not getting fellows in geriatrics? Because we have all of this history, this culture that has been set up that we have to move beyond. Now, it was a small effort, but I felt better about it, and the people in the audience felt better. When I was president of the Association for Gerontology in Higher Ed, we got everybody together, and I said, we're getting a new definition for geriatrics. We're just not sticking with this stuff. And what the group came up with was the study of health and disease in later life. Was it so hard to put the word health in there? And when I was presenting to older adults, this guy said, well, it took you a year to put health in, so obviously it was hard. But, it's like health and disease in later life. The comprehensive healthcare of older people. Now we're into spiritual, emotional, the whole person. That's why I love teaching in a college of osteopathic medicine, because we're looking at the whole person. And then this last part, the well-being of the informal caregivers. Who are the informal caregivers? Family, right? Kids, adult kids, whatever. So now what happens in your mind when you see this? Oh, that's not it. Hang on. Here it is. There it is. Care partner. What happens when you see care partner? What happens in your mind? We're together. We're working jointly. Now that's really from the Alzheimer's Association. Were the first ones to really bring up care partners, because I don't care what stage, I'm really not talking about dementia in this, but I don't care what stage a person is at, either in dementia or death, they have autonomy to the last dying breath. We all do. We may not be independent in the medical sense, but we have autonomy. And so by having care partners, could we maybe get the giver to back up a little bit and just maybe think, I'm giving. How can I receive messages from the person that I really care about and love, and try to meet them in another way? It's just something to think about. So here we have older adults equals geriatric population, and it actually is not synonymous. So if we have geriatric, again, is that significant disorders, a population with significant disorders. So if I ask you now, how many of you are working with geriatric people? Nobody should be raising their hand. How many of you are working with older adults, elders, elderly, older people? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we are going to do our next experiential thing. This is a bumper sticker, and I'm thinking about the bowl for the soup, So does everybody have a pen that they can fill out their form? Okay. You are actually going to get a hearing test. This is not an ideal environment, but you'll get a feel for it. Just listen to the first part. The person's going to read 4 sentences. When there's hearing loss, usually it's the higher frequencies that get lost. So just listen to that so you get a sense of what's going on. Then we're going to move over to the sheet, and they will read you 10 words as if you had moderate hearing loss, 10 words as if you had mild hearing loss, and then the same 10 words with no hearing loss. So bear with me on this. Oh, don't you love her? The 100-year-old? Yeah. So actually, this is for the audience at home. If you just set up, just get the people that are virtual, just get a blank piece of paper and put 3 columns, 1 through 10, in each of the columns, and you could do this too.
Demonstration, you will experience speech as it would sound if you had some high-frequency hearing loss yourself. You will hear 4 sentences. However, they will not sound normal to you, since some of the high-frequency tones have been filtered out. See if you can understand all 4 of the sentences. Here we go. Number 1. Let's ride our bikes this evening. Number 2. Those cookies are delicious. Number 3. How do you spell your name? Number 4. I like the colors in that jacket. Well, how did you do? You probably had a little trouble understanding what was said because some of the high frequencies were missing. Now listen to the same sentences, but this time without any filtering. The sentences should sound normal to you. Number 1. Let's ride our bikes this evening. Number 2. Those cookies are delicious. Number 3. How do you spell your name? Number 4. I like the colors in that jacket. That was better, wasn't it? It's much easier to understand speech when you can hear the full range of frequencies. The last hearing demonstration on this tape is a test. It's a list of 10 words. The words have been chosen so that they are easily confused with other words that sound much the same. You will hear the list 3 times. Each time, write down the words you hear. For the first reading, most of the very high-frequency sounds will be filtered out, so it will seem as if you have a fairly severe hearing loss. You are going to have trouble understanding the words. Even if you can't hear a word clearly, go ahead and write down your best guess. As you listen, write the words in column A on the worksheet. Here is the first reading of the list. Ready?
Number 1, spread. Number 2, test. Number 3, thumb. Number 4, knee. Number 5, rise. Number 6, back. Number 7, fifth. Number 8, save. Number 9, bed. Number 10, goose.
Well, how did you do? Can you imagine how difficult your daily life might be if speech always sounded like this? In the second reading of the test, there will be less filtering, so the words will sound a little clearer. You will experience what it might be like to have a mild hearing loss. This time, write the words in column B.
Number 1, fill. Number 2, tap. Number 3, thumb. Number 4, knee. Number 5, wise. Number 6, bath. Number 7, fifth. Number 8, shows. Number 9, bed. Number 10, juice.
Was that any better? People with this degree of hearing loss often do not realize that they are not hearing as well as they used to. They may even get indignant when their friends suggest that they have a hearing problem, or they may get irritated because they think everyone is mumbling. Now, you will hear the same list of words for the third time, but this time they will be recorded normally, with all of the high and low tones present. This time, list the words in column C.
Number 1, fill. Number 2, catch. Number 3, thumb. Number 4, knee. Number 5, wise. Number 6, bath. Number 7, fish. Number 8, shows. Number 9, bed. Number 10, juice.
Demonstration, you will experience.
How'd you do? 1. Yeah. I have to tell you, I did this in the Doctor of Physical Therapy program. And this one student, she raised her hand and she's like, oh, Dr. G, I got one word all the way through. And I was like, great, what was the word? And she said, some obscure word. And everybody in the class turned and said, that wasn't even a word. So in that second, that mild hearing loss, how many times have you heard people say, stop your mumbling? Right? And I'm talking fast today because now I gotta pick up the pace here. But this is tricky stuff. Did you realize what it sounds like to have hearing loss? And this is, again, not an ideal environment, but this is so important to have that empathy to understand that if somebody says, stop your mumbling, that they probably are not hearing those words fully. And then take a deep breath and stay with them and work through it. So here's the Morabian communication pie chart. It actually started in 1974, but I used the 1987 because of this. But 7% is communicated through words. When you leave here today, or I leave here today, you will not remember a word that I said. It's okay, it's fine. But hopefully that 55% body language, 38% voice tone, would you say I have a passion in this field? Yes. I'm crazy about this field. I love this field. So this whole part here is so incredibly important. And think about all the times that you go into a room and you start sizing up people, you know? First day in school, like, oh, I want to be friends with them, but I'm not so sure about that person until maybe you get to know them a little bit better. But we size up people all the time. That's what we do. And if you are addressing, I mentioned before about older adults and that red thread. If somebody had their spouse die, so I'm an optimist, right? My spouse dies, chances are I'm going to still have an optimistic spin to it, but I am going to be grieving. My voice tone and body language are not going to be anywhere near where I am right now. And then how will you respond to me if you don't even know that my spouse died? And so to really get that whole person, that comprehensive look at the people that you're dealing with is just so incredibly important. Now, this part is really interesting. If words and body language disagree, they tend to believe the body language. You can tell me anything. I am totally open to you. You want to talk about your sex life? Go ahead. I got it. So what was interesting about that, I was with advanced practice nurses, and these are all the ways of nonverbal communication, right? You're sizing people up, how they look, what their hair is like. It's like, Dr. G, you don't have a hair out of place. What's the matter with you? It's like, that's the way it is, But this part, there was a nurse, advanced practice nurse came up to me and she says, Marilyn, I'm the one in the practice that does the sexual histories on all the patients, and we have a lot of older patients. And she said, I don't know what it is. She said, I believe in it. It's important. I want them to have sex or intimacy. And she said, but it just falls flat. She said, what do you think? I don't even know this woman. And I don't know what happened, but I said to her, are you breathing when you're doing these interviews? You're asking these questions. And she literally did a no. Well, let me ask you. When was the last time you felt comfortable talking about your sex life to somebody who wasn't breathing? And period, when was the last time you felt comfortable talking to anybody who wasn't breathing? That whole 93% just stops people from opening up because she's not breathing. So it was really interesting, but all of that, voice tone, facial expressions, when you were doing the words, some of you were like, just making faces, but all of that, pay attention to that, and we do already. I'm just asking you to bring it to your consciousness now, that anyone you encounter, and if you encounter someone, I'm a flaming extrovert, that's a problem for some people, especially those who regain energy by being quiet, introverts. It's not that they're not out there, it's just that they regain energy in a different way than extroverts. But open your hearts. Share your heart. That's what's going to bring them in regardless, instead of this labeling. So another bumper sticker, I'm so old that whenever I eat out, they ask me for my money up front. And these are two important terms. I just want to run through them real quick. Compassionate ageism, Betty Friedan was the one who coined this in The Fountain of Age. And it's assisting an older adult with good intentions. Here's the key. When you are assisting anyone, I don't care what age, are you assisting them because you feel they can't manage the task on their own, young or old? I often feel ageist by being a gerontologist. This is true for any age. And if you're in a grocery store and you see somebody struggling, again, any age, you might go up and you ask for, can I help you? Which is a nice thing to do, and I'm glad you're doing that, because some people just jump in and help. But think about your motivation. Did you ask because you felt they couldn't manage it? And that's the part where you have to check yourself. Learned helplessness. How many in here are nurses? So this actually was attributed to nursing. It is not. I'm here to tell you it doesn't apply. But assisting others to the point where they no longer can or will do things for themselves. So in the Learning by Living nursing home immersion, one of my students is sitting next to Evelyn. The CNA comes up, starts cutting her meat, fixing her coffee, and the student says, Evelyn, you can do all that. And Evelyn says, oh, it makes her feel better. Well, the truth of the matter is that Evelyn's not going to be able to do those fine motor coordinations and take care of herself, right? Which is actually going to promote dependence and depression over the long term, depending on the person's essence. So these are two key terms in terms of working with anybody, any age. It happens to young school kids. We have parents that are, running out the door and they're throwing on coats, boots, hats, and never teaching a kid how to buckle their own boots or zip their own jackets, and they get to school. And my friend's a school teacher, and she said, I'm helping these children because everything is done for them. So they have learned helplessness even at younger ages, okay? Any age group. All right, the Frameworks Institute, and I want to bring your attention to the National Center to Free Frame Aging, which is Gerontological Society of America. They did this huge study. It was through Parade magazine. They got a whole bunch of people answering, and they had these 5 nouns: senior, elder, senior citizen, older person, older adult, and they said put them on a scale from most competent to least competent. This is how they fell out. Then there was the age, see, all this is mixed up, sorry. They had the age association, and these were the ages. So a senior was somebody who was 69, an older adult was somebody who was 54. What does that tell you about the people who probably filled out the survey in Parade? They were probably younger people, right? Thousands of them, right? But this is the way it fell out. So let's just play with this a little bit. Let's take the term adjective elderly. Would you put an elderly person, most competent or least competent? This is the person who is probably sickly, frail. Where would you put them? Most competent, least competent? Least competent. What age would you assign to somebody who's elderly? 75. I'm 72. Who said that? I will never be elderly. Adjective. I'm okay with the noun. Usually people are going to 85 when they get into elderly. So this is kind of interesting, this whole age association. So the most neutral term is actually older person, according to older people, older person. I use older adult, so whatever. Okay, so aging by the numbers, real quick. Do you know $63 billion a year? Becca Levy's book, Breaking the Age Code, is attributed to underdiagnosis, misdiagnosis, overdiagnosis, undermedicating, overmedicating, and the top 8 conditions: cardiology, pulmonary, diabetes, top 8 conditions for people who are older just due to ageism. That ageism is often unrecognized, unchallenged, and yet it could cause a medically induced error, which is iatrogenesis, medically induced error. So somebody's in the hospital, my friend, she's on 20-something medications, actually in a cardiac rehab program that I directed. Gentleman comes in, cardiac rehab, phase 3, 26 different medications. We coordinate 8 different physicians, get them down to 6 medications. 20 of those medications were given to offset the side effects of other medications. Okay, and when you have at least 6 medications, there's a 50% chance that there's going to be some kind of interaction. So polypharmacy is a real issue. But that $63 billion a year, what a waste of money, and people are suffering because of it. Either they're not being heard or listened to, or they're not being treated or overtreated just because of ageist attitudes in our healthcare field. Number of physicians, if a person is healthy, they might see usually 5 physicians a year. If they go into the hospital, the usual stay is 4 days. They'll see between 10 and 14 physicians. Do you think those physicians are really going to be able to coordinate care? Even with electronic medical records? It's not going to happen. And then you have the people this is the people who are front-facing, physicians, providers, nurse practitioners, these are the people that are front-facing with the older adult when they're in the hospital. What about all the people that are reading all the lab tests and everything else? You're going to get up to 20 different kind of providers in there and physicians. So, and even the healthy person, I mentioned before, primary care, we're fragmenting ourselves. We just can't, if you had a mole, you used to go to your primary care, they took care of it. Now you got to go see a dermatologist and you have to wait 6 months and then it turns into skin cancer and you know how all that works. Emergency room visits. 65% of older adults who go into the emergency room, it's because of the last prescription they were given by a provider. 65%. And what happens is, in many, we're really changing this in Maine, not only get the list of medications, but get the dates they were given the medications. And that makes all the difference, right? So, because everybody's asking for the meds, but nobody's saying which was the last one that you added to your list. And if we could do that, we might be able to find out. Now, one of the things that happens with that is that of those 65%, 17% have serious enough interactions that they have to be admitted into the hospital. Again, that's iatrogenesis, right? So, percent in nursing homes, everybody knows. What's the percent in nursing homes? Percent of people in nursing homes? Overall. They say 5%, and then when you get into the 85 plus, it goes up to 15%. And that's true across the US, it's certainly true in Maine. With nursing home closures, we have a real issue in terms of care for people that can now either no longer pay for nursing homes, get into nursing homes, and need help at home. Centenarians, 30% are living independently in their homes. They might have people coming in, that was the last census, but 30% of centenarians, and somebody said there's somebody alive today that's going to live to 150. I don't know if that's true, but grandparents, 4 out of 10, are the primary care providers for their grandchildren. So those pediatricians, they need to know about working with older adults, because if they cannot keep that family intact, that child's going to end up in foster care. Okay, nobody's going to care for them. And then, does anybody know, geriatricians have the highest happiness quotient. They have the highest happiness quotient. They love their patients. Now remember, if you don't love your patient, it's not because they're old, it's because you don't like their personality, right? Let's not get this confused. But what specialty has the lowest happiness quotient? Just yell it out. Medical specialty. ER, I heard, no. Neurosurgery, no. Not dentist, no. That's good though. Emergency, no. Plastic surgeon, no. No. Okay, so the lowest happiness quotient is OBGYN. Terrible hours, lawsuits, high emotion. So yeah, OBGYN has the lowest happiness quotient. Very quickly, familiar with age-friendly health systems? We hope so. Okay, so what is really important is the matters most, and one of the other programs that's front-facing is GEM, Geriatrics Education Mentor. Notice the S on geriatrics. Our medical students, they pick a partner, and then they are paired with an older adult who lives in the community. They do 5 home visits over their first year and into their second year, through their second year, and then we have a big wrap-up at the end. Every assignment, they have to ask about what matters most. So if they're doing geriatric assessments, they're doing falls, they're doing driver safety, whatever it is, at the end, they need to ask what matters most to you. The last assignment is actually doing the 5 wishes, which is an advanced directive document. If you haven't seen it, go to 5wishes.com. Very comprehensive, emotional, spiritual, your legacy, what music do you want, as well as the legal part of it. And that's the first time many of our students are talking about death and dying with somebody. And really our GEMs are the ones that are mentoring our students in how to feel comfortable with that conversation. So this is an amazing program to be doing. I've been doing it for 12 years now, and only 15% of US medical schools, there's about 192 medical schools, DO and MD, and I'm so glad that we're doing this, because our GEMs are active participants, and they're learning about their own health and how to work within the healthcare system, and then our students are also doing that. If anybody wants information, I'm happy to share it. Okay, you have an orange, you squeeze it, what comes out? It's not a trick question. Juice. Does it matter when you squeeze it? If you squeeze it in the morning, you squeeze it at night, what comes out? Juice, right. Does it matter what you squeeze it with? You squeeze it with a hammer, squeeze it with a juicer, what comes out? Juice. Juice, right. So what's the metaphor here? The metaphor is when you get squeezed, metaphorically, what comes out? Juice. And now the next question is, what is your juice? Is it optimism? Is it pessimism? Is it love? Is it anger? Is it frustration? What is your juice when you get squeezed? Humor. Excellent. What then is the next question is that many of you in the roles that you're in, you will be squeezing others. And so one, you need to be aware of your own juice. So humor will work, right? But if you're a frustrated person, a grouchy person, for those of you that raised your hands earlier, you gotta check it, right? And figure out what is the juice of the person that I'm now talking with. And if I'm pressing them, I'm squeezing them, how do I work with them to have them feel supported in that? How many times you might have to give a terminal diagnosis or tell them, no, you can't get that financial aid or whatever it might be. You can't get that health care plan. And you're squeezing them. So know your own juice, know their juice, learn about their juice. And you can even ask them, what's your juice? Give them some background on that though. Okay, what is the most powerful three-letter word in the English language? Yes? No. It's not God, it's not love, L-U-V. What? Can. That's good. No. Come on. And, that was good. No. Yet? Yet? I don't think I've ever heard yet. That's a no.
Is it but?
Is it what?
But?
But?
No, B-U-T.
No. We got why, we got yes. Okay, the most powerful three-letter word in the English language. You sitting down? You ready? Tony Robbins, does anybody know why ask is the most powerful three-letter word in the English language? Think about if you're in your families or you're around any kids, don't we barrage children with questions? Can you say mommy? Can you say daddy? What does a horse say? What does a cow say? What does it, we do that. All of us have been programmed since we were born to answer because we've been barraged with questions throughout our life. And that makes ask the most powerful three-letter word in the English language. And so at this point, you get older and you think, I really want to know this, the answer to this question, or I want to ask this question. You say, no, it's a stupid question. Get rid of that filter. Ask. Just know that it's powerful. The person has the right to answer or not. Let that be. It's not about you. They're making that decision. But ask is the most powerful three-letter word. And so if you're wondering, ask. And we need more people to be asking each other how they are feeling in an appointment or in a conversation or whatever it might be, so that people can show up and they have an opportunity to put themselves out there with you. But you need to ask to at least open that up. And remember, if you ask standing like this, it's not going to work, right? So do that self-check and make sure your heart is open. So here's the metaphor. We have a bear in a bear suit reading a script about how to be a bear. Does anybody think that's weird? So in our society, we have older adults. We put them in a wrinkle suit. We give them a script about how to be elderly, adjective. Disease, decline, withdrawal. Cummings and Henry, 1962. Still prevalent. So, for you, when you came here today, you put on a suit. I literally put on a suit. You put on something to present yourself. You kind of figured there must be a script. I got to play this role while I'm at this conference. When you go to work, what is the suit that people put on you as soon as you show up at work? What is the script they put in your hand? What happens when you go home with your families? What suit are they trying to put on you? Mom? Right? And the script they're trying to give you. Do you accept that? So this metaphor is pretty cool. So I'm going to buzz through these just because I want to get to, here's a quick test. What would you say about her? She what? She's innovative. Okay. So what this is, she's putting the letter in the guy's drawers, right? I guarantee if I put this picture up first, she would have said, she's clearly has dementia. Something's going on with this woman. And now she's innovative or she has a sense of humor. You've shifted, whether you realize it or not. Maybe you would have answered that way to begin with, but this is kind of interesting. And then, action and words have weight, and I'm going to read this to you real quick. This is out of London. 9 oldsters booted out of a nursing home for trying to have an orgy. A group of 9 love-hungry codgers were booted out of an old folks' home after they tried to have an orgy in the recreation room. So the unidentified oldsters, pay attention to these words here, aged 73 to 98, had apparently planned an unauthorized after-hours get-together. And this nursing home in London was like, this is not okay. You know, we don't do that here. They somehow got it in their heads to celebrate a 90th birthday of one of the women and have a kind of sex party. This may sound harmless or amusing, but we don't do that here. The nursing home tried to keep it out of the paper. That didn't work. But according to the British papers, here we go. The Let It All Hang Out party took place just after midnight on October 28th. Here we go. Men, you ready? The 3 wrinkly Romeos, see what you have to look forward to. Women, hold on, and 6 sagging seductresses gathered together in the rec room and stripped to the buff. They really set the scene, a staffer said. They got their hands on candles, they put on rumba music, they had baby oil. The nude geezer gala went on for about 20 minutes before orderlies heard the rumba music and went into the room to investigate. When they opened the doors, they were shocked to find the old-timers crowded together in their birthday suits slathered in baby oil. And then a staffer says they hadn't gotten too far. I guess it was taking some of the gents a while to get started. But here, this comment. The staffer said, but they were all naked. Believe me, it was the scariest thing I've seen in my life. Right? It's fun, laugh. But you know, if I was one of the people in there, which I wouldn't be, to not be who you are. So here's your homework. Hug or talk to someone with gray hair, or hug or talk to someone who is older and has dyed hair. I always say, you know, what would it say as a gerontologist if I dyed my hair? And then in the Boston Globe, we need 4 hugs a day to survive and 8 to thrive. Start hugging more. Ask first. Don't throw yourself in people's arms. Ask first, but it really is an important thing. And then we have our main geriatrics conference in Bar Harbor later in May. And if anybody wants to come to Bar Harbor, we'll get you in, okay? And Becca Levy will be there to present. Thank you all. I want to get my...
Listen, I would have to say that that is the only person I've ever met that can compete with Jon Stewart. Truly. That was fabulous. Thank you, Marilyn. We're breaking now until 11:30. Please visit our exhibitors. The poster series is also off to the right as you come out. We'll see you in a little bit.